SicEm365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
He is the senior college football analyst with the Draft Network. Ben Solak with us on SicEm365 Radio. We just discussed quite a bit some of the nuances, some of the intriguing or even human interest stories of the draft. Ben joins us now on SicEm365 Radio. Ben, when you look at overall, thanks for your time, by the way. I know it's been a long weekend and watching how things go. Is there anyone in particular you think just hit a grand slam this weekend?
Yeah, I think you got to say that Chicago general manager Ryan Pace, whose job was legitimately hanging in the balance this past at the end of the regular season, had himself a great offseason. And the Bears had to make some tricky moves. They made some cap cuts to some good players. But in terms of the draft, I mean, Pace had one goal in mind, which was bring in another potential rookie starting quarterback who can elevate this offense. We forget that the Bears have been 12-4, 8-8, and 8-8 over the last 3 seasons. This hasn't been a bad team by any measure. It's just their offense has always felt like a bit of a joke. With Justin Fields, it won't. This is probably the second best quarterback in the class pre-draft, at least off of the way that I and a lot of other guys in the draft media space viewed it. So to get him at 11 is big time for Pace. It's an opportunity to reset the clock on his Bears tenure and hold on to his job. With Kevin Jenkins also in that group, Daz Newsome, who I think can maybe get some starting reps for them, given the state of their wide receiver room. The Bears had as good of a draft as anybody did, and it's especially exciting for Pace because he struggled the last couple of years.
Ben, the Cowboys, you have them graded at a D, and is that because they didn't really get good value at where they picked some of these guys?
Yes, it's for a couple different factors. I wouldn't be that mean on you if I just didn't like your players, because I'm just one guy who, I'm just trying to figure out how this draft thing goes, same way everybody else is. But they had a defense coordinator, Mike Nolan, running a 3-4, right, and running off cover. And then they bring in Dan Quinn, new defensive coordinator, and they have to completely revamp their defensive personnel. So they were extremely defensive heavy, but the body type that they went for and some of the roles that they went for don't really seem to match up. So you bring in Micah Parsons, 6'3", 245 linebacker, I guess, to play the stacked Mike linebacker role. They still need an on-ball Sam player, who I'm not sure if that'll be Jalen Smith or Leighton Vander Esch, and obviously both of those guys' futures are up in the air. They take Nashawn Wright, this corner out of Oregon State, in the third round, 6'4", going to be able to play on the line of scrimmage, but it was multiple rounds earlier than anybody else would have taken him. Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky is sweet feet and off coverage. I don't think he has a good projection to press in the NFL, and that's what they're going to be asking him to do. Osa Digizua as a tweener type would have been really good for a 3-4 front, but now it's a 4-3 front. So I don't really see the vision here. I think last year this team had a bad defense, and they had a good offense when Prescott was there, and they were going to give up a ton of points and ask Prescott to win games for them with 35-plus points. This year, I think they're going to be largely the same. I'm not really sure if they got better, if they got impact players in this year's draft. And so while I understand what they're trying to do, I just think they missed the mark. I'd be worried about a Dan Quinn defense, especially with the struggles he had in Atlanta. I'm just not in on how the Cowboys decided to build through this draft.
Benjamin, I was really interested in how Urban Meyer would attack his first draft as head coach of the Jaguars. Obviously got Trevor Lawrence right out of the gates, Travis Etienne to bring in his college teammate. What'd you think of the Jaguars and Urban Meyer and their plan overall?
Right, so Urban approached this like a college coach approaches high school recruitment, right? I mean, he went and got himself some athletes, and we're talking about 5-star players, right? So guys that he would have known their names back when he was in the college ranks. Tyson Campbell out of Georgia, Walker Little out of Stanford, Jason Staley out of USC. These are some big-time recruits. And, of course, Luke Farrell was his own recruit out of Ohio State. Jordan Smith out of UAB was a 4-star recruit to Florida. These are big-time names. A lot of them underwhelmed in college, however. Tyson Campbell never really came along the way Georgia hoped. Walker Little was playing well, but multiple season-ending injuries. Smith obviously had to transfer out. These are names that didn't prove themselves in college the way you would have liked to have seen for most traditional NFL minds. You also see a big priority on team speed, right? That Travis Etienne pick reflects that. They had a 1,400-yard from scrimmage player in James Robinson, undrafted free agent, one of the best value contracts in the league. And Urban replaces him in round 1 because he said we want to be faster at running back than the 4.6 that James Robinson ran. And so this is very much so like a college coach, prioritizing athletes and instilling his stamp, his philosophy on the team. We'll see if that works, but usually at the NFL, that doesn't. Because these are professionals now. These are adults, and you got to let them be their own person. You got to be able to respect how they play, and it's all about your product now. There's not as much time for development in the NFL with limits on practice time, roster size, so on and so forth. And so this is about what we expected from Urban Meyer, which was college-y. And that typically hasn't translated to the league. We'll see if Urban's luckier than other college coaches of the past.
You know, for the most part, everyone knows Kansas City, Tampa, Buffalo. The Packers, 49ers are a team in the mix. The Ravens always, because they are. And even the teams that are up and coming, I mentioned Buffalo with the Browns. How much did the Aaron Rodgers smoke and what seems to be pretty legitimate, how much does that affect how Vegas or how you look at their odds in the Super Bowl?
It doesn't really, because I don't want to be responding to head fakes, especially when it comes to taking bets. You know what I mean? I think that Gutekunst and Rodgers are definitely throwing lobs at each other in the media, but this is round one, feeling each other out. You know what I mean? To me, this is not burned bridges. It's not irreparable bonds yet, so on and so forth. Like, we've obviously heard that Rodgers is frustrated. We've heard that he's demanded this and that. But the reality is that when you're an MVP caliber quarterback, which I'm positive Rodgers is because he literally won the award last year, teams will eventually bend over backwards to get the job done. You know what I mean? It would be it is beyond, like, when the Packers replaced Favre with Rodgers, the circumstances were a lot different. The Favre tail off was clearly evident. Rodgers was clearly ready. This would be simply the most aggressive move away from the best quarterback ever. More than Brady with the Patriots last year. Just it would be an unbelievable, unprecedented move, and I don't expect Green Bay to make it because it's entirely unjustifiable. So, yeah, Rodgers is a bit of a diva. And, yeah, you don't want cancers in your locker room, guys who are clearly upset with the front office. That can get dangerous. But at the end of the day, that's the reigning league MVP. And you do what's necessary to keep him in the building. I expect that they would. And so I still think we see Rodgers for 17 games next year. I still think we see the Packers in the playoffs.
Ben Solak, the Draft Network, with us here, doing this interview on behalf of BetOnline.ag. So from that perspective of it, is anybody in the draft, did anybody improve themselves to the fact where you think their Super Bowl odds went up?
That'd be Cleveland. I think, to me, Cleveland was a clear AFC contending team, or at least close enough. Last year, right, they made it through one round of the playoffs, and that offense was clearly ready to go. But their defense was in need of some help. Talent infusion at all three levels, and that's what they went and they did. So Greg Newsome in the first round, if he's healthy, that's an NFL cover man for sure. He and Denzel Ward are a nice young corner duo, and they have depth, right? Grant Delpit, Troy Hill. Safety. To me, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, second-round pick, and Tony Fields, fifth-round pick. Those are box safety players, 215 pounds. So they add to a room that has Ronnie Harrison, that had John Johnson. Strong there. For the times that those guys take snap at linebacker, they'll be doing it with Jacob Harris from last season, Anthony Walker, they had in free agency. I like it. And then Tommy Tungiai, who's the real unsung hero of this group, their fourth-round pick. Defensive tackle out of Ohio State. He's a two-down player. He's going to play against the run, get a two-gap. But that's very valuable. It's very important. So it lets you take numbers out of the box and play them deep. So Tommy Tungiai might be the best pick of that class in terms of how much year-one impact they get when it's all said and done. So they needed to be heavy on defense, and they were. They're clearly a team that prioritizes coverage, and they have one of the most talented and deep secondaries in the league. On third and long, they're going to be able to put 7 guys out there, all of whom can realistically blitz, all of whom can realistically cover. That's dangerous. That lets you get really creative. So I think Cleveland's doing what's necessary to hang in a dynamic AFC. I think they're a legit contender AFC title game this year.
Benjamin, it's been fun to see how Matt Rule's building an NFL team, given we got to see him up close and personal, putting together, the Baylor roster for about 3 years. Here in his second draft, obviously names like Chuba Hubbard coming off the board to the Panthers. But what did you think of how the Panthers drafted this time around overall?
Right, so last year you have, the all-defense draft, and you're kind of wondering if Carolina's going to go heavy on offense this year, and they do. So they make the J.C. Horn pick, of course, but then it's Terrace Marshall, Brady Christensen, Tommy Tremble, Chuba Hubbard. I liked it. I particularly liked that run of Marshall, Christensen, and Tremble. All three of them are developed players with a lot of experience, a lot of snaps under their belt, so you expect immediate contribution. Christensen can challenge for that starting tackle job. Marshall will be wide receiver 3 and 3 wide out sets, which you know is how Joe Brady likes to base that offense. And then Tremble is a do-it-all player at tight end. And so you're going to find ways to get him on the field because when he's on the field, he disguises intention. He can block, he can run routes, he can go in motion. And so you can do a lot of creative things when you have him in your arsenal. So that run is really quite impressive. I like what I see there. They like to take swings on guys. Davian Nixon has some troubling off the field remarks in terms of how he prepares and how he's able to get through the playbook and whatnot. Shi Smith had some off-field stuff, the 6th-round pick out of South Carolina as well, which is part of why he fell down the board. And so sometimes those players, those big swings can hit for you. Sometimes they flame out pretty quick. But in general, they went after talent there late on day 3 as well. Deontay Brown, to me, the interior offensive lineman out of Alabama, that's 355 pounds of grown man. Like, he can do some work for you. So they got a B from me, I want to say. Solid draft across the board. The big question for them is, can J.C. Horn play zone in year 1? Because he was all man coverage in South Carolina, and now he's going to go to a pretty zone-heavy defense there for Phil Snow. If they got that right, this will be a strong class.
You mentioned that Micah Parsons, he's the favorite as far as defensive rookie of the year, and it looks like he's pretty heavily the favorite over Phillips, Davis, Pay, Horn, or Surtain, whoever else. Is he that much because of the position he plays, or is he just that much better at who he is and because of what Dallas needs as well at linebacker?
Yeah, so in my opinion, he's good. He's really good, but it shouldn't be that much. Linebackers do get the advantage very often when it comes to Defensive Rookie of the Year awards because they'll just rack up tackles. And the Rookie of the Year awards love counting stats. You need tackles. You need interceptions. You need plays on the ball. And so I get it with Parsons. I think it'd be a fine bet. I think that Jalen Phillips should be higher up there. I think he's an 8+ sack a year player. He goes to Miami where he's going to be the clear best pass rusher already on that roster. He's got a really nicely well-developed body. He would have come out a couple years ago if he had a regular college career because he's just such a mature body already. So I think he's ready to fight NFL strength. He's ready to go up against NFL athletes. So to me, Phillips and Parsons are the two clear guys in that group. And in that, Parsons has much stronger odds. I think Phillips is your better bet.
Ben, was there someone who went undrafted that floored you that they went undrafted?
Yeah, Marvin Wilson, the defensive tackle out of Florida State, and I get it. His career ended on a bad note. His final year of film was not good. New defense, new coaching staff, Florida State, obviously coming off the COVID year and what have you. But this was the number 5, number 6 overall recruit in the 2017 class. We usually see 5-star recruits get drafted no matter what because NFL teams talk themselves into, all right, I'll make something of this guy. His own coaching staff couldn't, but I can. That's a very common argument. So we've seen players who did not develop as 5-stars the way Marvin Wilson did get drafted in the 4th round, 5th round. For him to go undrafted was surprising. Now, he got a big-time bonus from Cleveland, big money, money that you would get if you were a 5th-round pick. So they clearly prioritized him, and appropriately so, but it was surprising to see that nobody took him off the board. If they get his conditioning right and his mind right, he's got real talent.
Again, Ben Solak with us from senior college football analyst with the Draft Network. BetOnline.ag is, again, who's putting on this interview with us, thanks to Jimmy Shapiro as well. The quarterbacks drafted overall, and you look at Lawrence, and then obviously we see what Fields did. You mentioned what the Bears did. Why do you feel like that Fields dropped as low as he did? And yes, the other guys, Zach Wilson appears to be really good, and his offensive coordinator is now at Baylor and Jeff Grimes. But why do you think Fields did drop?
It's tricky to say. I think that there's a concern about the Ohio State quarterbacks, and that's been a conversation that people have had for a while in terms of, all right, Dwayne Haskins came out a couple years ago. The Ohio State program, the guys that are there, the coaches in the front office and whatnot, I mean, they were clear. They were honest about what they thought about those players. They said, hey, like, Haskins, maybe doesn't have the best preparation. Maybe he's not mature enough and ready for the league. Like, that was stuff we talked about back then. And so I'm sure the Ohio State guys gave their honest opinion about Justin Fields and how he plays as well. And there's a chance that people didn't like his preparation. Fields has always been a star going back to when he was on a TV show as a high schooler, you know what I mean? And so that will rub some NFL people the wrong way. There were questions about how well he processes, just because I think he's got a little bit of a methodical process. I think he'll have to speed up his process a little bit in the league. just go quicker through his reads, make decisions a little faster. But that's true of a lot of young players. So it's probably a conflation of things. It was a very talented quarterback class in general. So I think we just had some splitting of the hairs and he fell. But to me, you don't really get 6'3", 230, runs a 4.4, can throw it 65 yards down the field every year. So I'm willing to take a gamble on that natural talent. I think he deserves it.
Benjamin, thank you, man. Appreciate your job. You guys do a great job. You do an incredible job. BetOnline.ag as well. We appreciate their time. Have a great weekend and get some rest now. I don't know if you do, but get some rest now that this thing's wrapped up.
Yeah, I'm going into hibernation mode here. You'll be the last person I talk to for the next 24 hours.
Thank you very much for giving us that time. Again, thanks to Jimmy as well. When we come back, he's going to SMU. He was